Understanding soul age can make all the difference in getting past a challenge within a relationship. And I want to help you understand that. Now, there are some authors out there that talk about soul age, but they talk about it in very minimal ways. They really don't tell you how this comes out in everyday life. They might tell you kind of from a existential perspective, and there are a few layers and levels that they talk about. I actually have a soul age spectrum that has 10 different levels of soul age, all the way from ancient soul down the way to infant soul. Now, I tell people, we all know people who seem to be wise beyond their years. So we always think about, oh, that's an old soul. But we don't think about everything that comes in between, all the way down to an infant soul. And I think it's important to understand that this affects us in everyday life. And if we just understood this small little layer, actually, it's a big layer, of who we are from a soul perspective, we would understand why we have such big challenges with them. So let me give you some examples. So if you have, and I hear this a lot of times, if you had or have a parent that basically you ended up taking care of and you ended up having to make better decisions than they were making, and they couldn't get past certain challenges in their own life, whether they were drug addicts or they were, I don't know, abusers or whatever it might be, and yet you saw through it and you were like, this is not okay. It can be very confusing for a child to see a parent go through something like that because of the fact that it's like, wait, you are the adult. You are now becoming the conscious adulting kind of individual in the process, and you're either having to take care of them or you're having to make better decisions or you're having to find a way to survive the situation because you're an older soul than they are. And so there's one concept. If you have someone that's a parent that's emotional all the time and you're like, what the heck? What is going on here? They may be a younger soul than you are. If that person is controlling, if there's so many different nuances to how this can work. But if your parent is not really acting like an adult, it's probably because their soul age is younger than what you would like them to be or need them to be in order to parent you. Now, one thing I tell people is that parents can only parent up to their soul level. So they may be great providers in terms of, getting food on the table or paying the bills, but they may not have that soul consciousness to know what the other people in their family need in order to thrive. They may not have parenting skills beyond knowing how to play house, as they call it. So it's an idea of, how do you expand this? How do you, if that person was not able to give you wisdom, they're probably a young soul. So how do you expand this conceptualization to help you heal? Well, partially by identifying what that person's soul age was. So if you have a child that is not getting past certain things, that's another indication that maybe, okay, they are not functioning from a higher soul level. So, for instance, I have a healthcare provider right now who I'm working with who, again, has two very highly functioning children. And then the third child, who is an adult, is having difficulty moving forward. It keeps cycling through certain things. No major soul wounds, no major kinds of things that had happened to him. And yet he's having a hard time thriving. And it is, again, I helped her understand just the other day that basically this could be a part of the soul age, that, her other kids are older souls. And basically, this child of hers, adult child, is someone that she has to learn how to work with from the soul age perspective in order to help them along. That is another way that I teach people to use soul age to their advantage is, again, once you kind of identify what the soul age is, then if you think about how do I need to communicate with someone of that age, then you don't get as frustrated. You don't hit that wall as often because you can use it as a strategy for yourself to say, oh, okay, well, wait a minute. This is how I need to communicate with this particular individual in my life to help get them along. I have had numerous clients over the years contact me because they had difficulties with their bosses, and their bosses would throw fits or throw tantrums. When I was a professor at the medical school, there was one of the professors in another part of our department that would yell and scream at people. And I had to help people understand, wow, this is like a toddler soul. This is someone that's going to throw a fit every time he doesn't get his way. So I've had so many people contact me because their bosses were challenging, and I had to help them work through the idea. Okay, so this is about the soul age that this person is. How can I help you communicate with them to preserve yourself and not be basically abused in the process, but then help get yourself along in that employee situation to protect yourself from an emotional perspective? You don't think you have to strategize like that when you get into a job, but a lot of times, if you have those sticky situations, you do have to figure out what's going on because there's always lessons in it for yourself. But understanding the soul age perspective can take you so much further. I had a client years ago that she was not moving very far. She was not moving ahead. She came to me for weight management kinds of things, but she really had a lot of things that she just wasn't moving forward with. And it was very clear to me that she was functioning from a young child perspective. Her two adult children were thriving, they were adults, they were doing their thing. This person was very stuck in a very childlike mode. Again, nothing major had happened in her life. She did have a divorce, but she was very stuck on that too. And really, the whole point of it was she was young. She was younger than anybody in her life, and from a soul perspective, so she wasn't thriving. And so sometimes just understanding where a person is coming from is going to help you get further in, again, learning what you're supposed to learn from it, but learning how to maneuver or navigate the situation. Like I said, parents can only parent up to their soul level, but children can only live up to their soul level as well. I was a pretty old soul. I functioned independently from a very young age. My mom said I came out of the womb very independent. And I think it's because, again, I'm an older soul. I've been called an ancient soul. I try not to age myself because it feels strange to do that. But it's that idea that, if we have had multiple lives where we have learned whatever we're supposed to learn in those lifetimes, we are going to take that wisdom forward and kind of know how to do human life from a very early age and be able to function and thrive in ways that others cannot. So, and I will say this about old souls and ancient souls. A lot of times we, again, get, how can I say this? We get pigeonholed because we are either expected to take care of everybody else because we kind of inherently know how to do that, or people who are younger souls than us can be very jealous and intimidated by the older souls in their lifetimes and because in their life because the fact that they're insecure, maybe they're functioning from a young child perspective. It's fascinating to me once you understand soul age, how you can see it in the world. You can walk into, a major store and just kind of see how people are behaving according to their soul level. And so another way, and I'm just going to say one more thing on this video and about soul age, that, another thing to look at is that if people are not very conscious, if they're not very considerate of others, they're really very self-focused, that means that their soul consciousness is just not there. They are not being conscious toward other people. There's a righteousness to them. There's an energy to them. There's like, whew, it repels conscious people when they're around people like that because that means usually that there's a younger soul age involved, that there's a younger soul age to the point where, again, it's all about them. And, children are kind of all about them. They don't see beyond themselves unless they are an old soul and immediately can understand how to be sensitive to other people. But children, in the most part, if you think about human development, are very self-focused until they become adults unless they're an old soul. But when you think about young souls, if there's people that are getting under your skin right now and they're just not very conscious, it's probably because they're younger souls. This is not at all meant to be condescending towards someone. It's just basically another way of helping you understand where they're coming from and helping you understand what lessons you're supposed to learn as a result of interacting with them. Now, I will say, I started a book about soul age several years ago. I put it off to the side because of the fact that I had so many other projects going on. And I am picking that book up again. I am basically going to write this book because the more I'm working with people right now, the more I can tell that people need this information. And so I'm going to really help you understand from infant soul, 10 stages, all the way up, or levels, I should say, all the way up to ancient soul, how a person functions, like the description of who they are. And you're going to be able to nail it very quickly to go, oh gosh, that's where that person's coming from. The virtue that they are striving for, the milestone they have to kind of surpass in order to graduate to the next level as far as a soul perspective, excuse me, soul age perspective. Basically, any challenges and how they portray themselves and all of that. I'm going to explain this in this book. Now, one final thing I'm going to say, as someone who does both therapy work, but also does soul healing work, Akashic record readings, past life regressions, soul realignment, readings in general, I laugh when someone comes to me and said, someone told me I have over 1,000 lifetimes, and they think they're an old soul. Now, let me put this into perspective. Just because you've had 1,000 lifetimes does not mean that you have learned what you're supposed to learn within each one of those lifetimes to help season your soul in a way that makes you wise. So to me, it's no badge to wear if you say, I have 1,000 lifetimes, unless you've done the work, unless you actually are an older soul. And I also say people want to be older souls than they actually are, and that's why I never age myself. To me, it's not an ego thing. I know I've been around for a long time. I've been shown through spirit how long I've been around. It is a long time. It's before Earth, basically. And it's one of those things that until you understand soul age and really understand how it works, you're not going to be able to implement it and integrate it into your life. But it's that idea that we all want to be older souls than we are because we all want to be wiser. We don't want to be children. We don't want to be childlike. And yet at the same time, putting it into perspective for where we function from can help us so dramatically because it can explain our worlds in so many ways. So stay tuned for the book. If you aren't already on my website and aren't already on my newsletter list, go to www.Dr.KatherineT.Kelly.com. You can add yourself to my list and you will know when this book is ready. I can't predict at this point when it's going to be ready because it does take time to put this information together. I mean, I already have the spectrum, put together. I've had this for years. I've had a lot of the graphics, but it is a process of basically putting it on paper. And I think the time is now. And this is why I'm putting this video out, is to help people understand that soul age plays a significant part in our lives. And it's time for people to understand that. Hope you enjoy this information. If you have questions, put it in the comment section. If you have thoughts and you really want to interact or you want a reading, contact me and I'm happy to work with you. Have a wonderful day.